During the 2024 Super Bowl, Beyonce released new music. That's pretty big. But what was even bigger was the fact that she released not pop music, not R&B music, but country music. Interesting, isn't it? Now, I was aware that she released music and hadn't heard it until I heard a recent Switched on Pop podcast episode where they talked about the two songs that she released. And I have to say, Texas Hold'em is a killer song. That is really good, country or not. I'm not the biggest fan of country personally. I grew up listening to country music in the 80s. My first concert was Johnny Cash when I was in third grade, who came to our county fair. But when I grew up in the 90s and since then, really, I moved away from country music. Not that I don't like it, I just grew away from it. But I found it interesting that in the podcast episode, they were talking about the backlash that Beyonce was getting from the gatekeepers of country music. Which is weird, because why would country music have gatekeepers? I mean, I don't really think of anybody as a pop music gatekeeper or rock music gatekeeper exactly. It's kind of weird. And as they discussed in the episode, which I highly recommend you check it out, one of the things that is the challenge for Beyonce is that apparently she's not considered country. What exactly does that mean, to be considered country? Well, as I was doing some research for this video, one of the things that I immediately thought of was Darius Rucker, lead singer of the band Hootie and the Blowfish, about 10 years ago or so, released country music. And I thought, I'm going to look and see what the reception was for him. And initially it was not the most positive. Then I thought about country artists like Taylor Swift or Dolly Parton who've moved out of country music into more of the pop music scene. Nobody in pop music had an issue with it. And from what I can tell, not many in the country music genre had issue with it. And I would guess, especially on the account of Taylor Swift, if she decided that she was going to go back to making solely country music, that the gatekeepers would welcome her with open arms. I mean, Dolly's been just venerated as an icon in country music. So, this leads to an interesting point, doesn't it? Is it potentially skin color? I don't know. It's one of those things that we don't talk about. But what exactly makes country music country music? I mean, country music does have somebody who is born in Australia who has an Australian accent singing country music. Is he country? Country music has integrated more hip-hop and rap songs, or styles at least, in songs throughout the years. Is that country music? And really, ultimately, whether or not it's a decision on whether Beyonce is country or not, I think it leads to a bigger conversation. I mean, what makes X, right? What makes whatever style of music, whatever it is? Do you have to have a banjo to be considered country music? Or in one of my favorite Alabama songs, if you're going to play in Texas, you got to have a fiddle in the band? What constitutes pop music? What constitutes rock music? Electric guitars? What constitutes heavy metal music? Specific chords? Certain style of singing? I think that's an interesting thought. Music to me is music. And honestly, as I think about it and as I look at music, I don't look at it as it's this specific style of music. I look at it as what's interesting to me about it. What is it that I connect with? Is it the rhythm? Is it the melody? Is it the chordal structure? Is it just the overall feel or ethos of the song? And yeah, I mean, hey, I have my guilty pleasures, which I don't feel guilty about because I like what I like, and that's okay. But I think in the grand scheme of things, this is a really interesting conversation to have. As I said, I don't have a whole lot of answers because, as you can see, I'm the kind of person who looks at music on the merits of the music and not the style. So what do you say? I'd love to have you leave a comment on what your thoughts are. What makes your favorite style of music, or any style of music for that matter, that kind of music? Is there something that's a specific telltale mark of it? I don't know. I'd love to have your thoughts. So, subscribe to the channel, as I'm going to be putting together more and more resources, asking some of these tougher questions, and just kind of looking at what's going on in the world of music. Thanks for tuning in.